Hello there everybody, this is MacLeod Mango here. First video to upload here. It's a work in progress here of Kim Jonghyun from Shiny. I didn't film until about halfway through, so that's why it's starting on the hair here. I like to use Stapler pencils, I think they're called. It's a German brand. They work very, very well. As you can see there, I have a little paintbrush. The paintbrush I find has worked wonders for shading. It tends to take the graphite and put it back to paper very softly so that it's very smooth. So usually when drawing, it doesn't matter with what hard kind of lead you're using, but you're still gonna be able to see every stroke. And there's a lot of different methods out there, like using tissue paper or rolled paper stumps. But I find with a bigger piece like this, this is a 14 by 17, I'm pretty sure, that will not help with the huge areas that need to be blended. And having to make every stroke and then try to blend it out to the point where you don't see every stroke is very difficult. And you can still use the classic method of using your finger, but I find that the hardness, you can't really tell how hard you're pressing onto the paper. So a lot of the time you'll get darker spots than others because of your finger. And with the paintbrush, it helps so much with just, all you have to do is go over the piece that you're already working on, or scribble on a piece of paper with a really soft lead, like something like 8B or even anything in the B range. And then when you put it down onto the paper, you'll get that lead down, but it'll already be blended out. And then once it's dark enough, you can use a harder lead. I tend to use F. I use this black pencil usually, and you'll see it in here at some points, but don't actually know what hardness it is, but I think it's in the FH range. But I find it's perfect for getting the line art down and getting pieces down. I find that once you reach a certain darkness, you'll be able to use those pencils and do stroke by stroke, and you won't notice it as much, and it's easier to blend out because there's already lead on the paper, or graphite on the paper. So yeah, paintbrush, holy crap, changed my life when it comes to blending. As you can see here, I've decided to challenge myself with a picture. It's from a few years ago, but it's always intrigued me because he's very wet. And I wanted to challenge myself because I usually hate drawing hair, and I will always half-ass it because by that point I'm just sick and tired and I want the drawing done. But you know what, I'm like, it's a big piece, I'm gonna challenge myself. I've started to work on bigger pieces of paper. I tend to usually only work on half a normal size piece of paper. So a normal size piece of paper is about 8.5 by 11. I fold that in half, and most of my work is that size. It's easier to get the proportions correct, but at the same time it's hard to get a lot of detail when it's so small, especially when you need to use a softer lead. It doesn't matter how sharp you make a pencil, it's still going to be too thick to get that detail that you like. So branching out and finally using a bigger paper. You can see here that I'm using pieces of paper under my hand to hopefully not smudge what I've already done underneath. As I am a right-handed person, I tend to start from the right and go to left, and it's been quite difficult to train myself to work left to right. And in this instance, because the hair is on the left, I really didn't want to work on it right away, which is why you see a lot of the face sketched in, and the shading has been started because I just really didn't want to work on the hair. I'm not the kind of artist who finishes a section to go on to the next. I will jump around. As you can see here, I was working on the hair, and now I'm going to the eye, because again, I get very sick of what I'm working on. So in this case here, he does have brown eyes, as most Korean people do, but with the lighting, it looked very bright, and his eyelashes were wet as well. So it's important to keep that negative space so that later on I can put in some white. I have some white gel pens and some white paint pens that I can use I've also saw a video a little while ago where someone used white pastels, which I seem to have as well. So I think I might see if that's going to make a difference. So here you can see me going in with the paintbrush, like I was talking about there. So I get the basic shading in, and then I can move it around with the paintbrush to get it where I would like. I saw a video a while ago with someone doing it to do a smoky eye, and that's where I got the idea to use it for the entire thing. So just putting in the dark spots, it's really difficult for me to work, like, again, it's the same with hair, with the negative space, because you've always kind of been trained to put pencil down to paper. But there's a lot of instances where it's actually best not to make a line, but to make lines around that one line to get the look you need. So in this case, what I'm talking about is like negative space. It's been very difficult to work that way, but I need to be able to work that way to get the look that I desire. That little clump there is a kneaded eraser. It works great for just blotting out excess graphite to get that white back. So in most cases, I'll do a light shading with the paintbrush. I think it was just a normal watercolor paintbrush. I don't know, I have a whole bunch of paintbrushes I keep buying for acrylics and watercolors and then forgetting which one was for what. It's kind of a rounded brush, and it's worked very well for the shading that I desire. So yeah, I go in there and get the basic down, and then I use the kneaded eraser to get that white back. Sometimes you don't want that pure white, but you still need a little bit of that negative space to emphasize the darkness around it. I'm also kind of person that doesn't wait until it's done to add the details. So in this case, you can see me going in with that paint marker and that white gel pen. I do have another piece of paper off to the side that I'm dispensing the ink. I noticed that with the paint, yes, it has a very thin tip, but once that paint comes out in a huge blob, and I don't know if I'm just not using it right, but I do have to have it on another piece of paper and go back and just pick up little pieces, which tends to take forever to get to the paper and to get the white I need, but it's better than getting huge splotches of paint and then not being able to get it off. So yeah, I'm just going in. That's a black pencil I was talking about. I can't even remember where I got it, if my friend got it for me or what, but I absolutely love it, and I need to figure out where it came from, because once it goes, I'm going to be very, very sad. You can see here I'm working on the eyebrows and the surrounding area. He has kind of a scowl going on, so I have to go in and get that muscle definition in there. While drawing it, I was very frustrated because to me it didn't look like anything, but looking back on it and looking at it from a distance, I have noticed that it is what I would like. Another thing with this piece is the eyebrows are also wet and do have quite white pieces to it to accentuate the whiteness, and I find it's very difficult to see the detail that I would like. The reason I get so angry with hair is because you can get lost in all the little lines and all the little hairs that are just poking out from every direction, because hair doesn't sit flat. As much as you want it to sit flat, you'll always have those little flyaways and the little strays, and that is something that's important in getting a photorealism. And for me, I really strive to have that hyper-realistic photorealism feel. So there's a lot that goes into it, including the smoothness, but sometimes you need that texture of skin as well, which I still haven't mastered in any way whatsoever. In fact, this is the closest I've got to what I like. So I'm trying very hard to not mess this up, because I could not replicate it to save my life. So again, I hopped to the definition around the forehead. In order to do that, again, you have to have that negative space. So I fill in all that dark hair there in order to get that shape that I would like, instead of placing a line down. What's going to come up in the next video, but I'm really struggling with is I really enjoy doing the wet look, especially on skin. But I find that on his forehead, the reason I'm not really working on his forehead is because he has so many little droplets that aren't very bright, like near his lips or the one you can see on the bottom of his chin. So it tends to look more like pimples than anything, and I do need to add them because it's essential to getting that wet look, but I'm struggling with getting them to not look like pimples. So I'm just going in there with the paintbrush to just start accentuating the shading that I'm going to have to do. The forehead is actually quite dark in comparison to the rest of the piece, so again, I'm going to have to go in with the shading and get it just dark enough, and then be able to go in with the kneaded eraser to get the droplets, and then later on with probably the gel pen and all, but it's not going to be as bright as the bottom of his face. This video is actually from a live stream I did on Facebook that I sped up. I did have my phone in landscape mode, not portrait, but because it's on Facebook, it just automatically did it to this way regardless. So I'm just finishing it off here, the session that I had, by zooming into all the details. Yeah, as you can see from the full look, I'm not at an angle there. It's coming across, coming along actually very nicely. Again, it's hard as an artist when you're so close to your piece to be able to see that it is coming along, because all you can see are the little mistakes, but no, looking back on it, I'm glad of where it's going, and I'm happy with how it's getting there. So I'm just zooming in here to show all the little hairs that I stuck in and all the shading, especially the little peach fuzz on the bottom of his ear. Not sure if I'm going to accentuate that more with some white paint or gel, because I already have. And then I kind of use my paintbrush to shade again, but maybe I might make it a little brighter to show off. Going into the eye here, I haven't completed it by any stretch, but it's getting there. Same with the eyebrows. Again, there's a lot of negative space, so being able to get that the hair in there, but the shadowing as well has been a little bit of a struggle, but again, getting there. Showing off the nose and the little dribble of water and the shininess of the lips and the chin there. It was incredibly fun to do this, and I keep going back to lighten up those highlights because I just feel like it needs to show even more shininess. Sorry, my camera went out of focus here a little bit, but yeah, on that little drop on the chin, I keep going back and working over, because it's never going to be perfect, but like it's pretty much perfect. But for some reason, I feel like I still got to work on it. That droplet has to look so much like a droplet. But yeah, so this is the end of this video. Again, just showcasing every detail that I'm working on here. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all those who did watch during the live stream. I hope that you enjoyed it, and if you did, just like and subscribe. I hope to upload more videos. Maybe this will encourage me to not have such a wonky schedule with drawing, because it usually takes anywhere from a few months to a year for me to get back to a piece, and I really do want to get back into drawing on the regular. So yeah, hope you enjoyed.